It's the 6th round of the Matul FIM Superbike World Championship, and we're at Donington Park in Leicestershire in 2018. The track was opened in 1931 and was the first permanent racetrack used in the UK. After closing due to World War II and then later being used as a military depot, it was reopened in 1977, with WorldSBK's first race being held here in 1988. Now, Jonathan Ray did the double at Imola, but as we saw, it was Vander Mark who was on top yesterday. Ray's got a 59 point advantage in the championship. Can he increase that this afternoon? Let's find out, shall we? First of all, let's take a closer look at this Donington Park circuit here in Leicestershire. Just over 4 kilometres long it is. Very, very short, actually. That's 2.5 miles to you and me. 12 corners in total. You can see there that there are 7 that are right, including Redgate, down through the Craner Curbs, the old hairpin, into McLean's and Coppice as well. Only 5 left-hand corners, including the left before the Fogarty S's and the final corner of Goddard's as well. First WorldSBK race, as we said, came here in 1988. We've had 51 races since then, another one to be added onto the board here this afternoon. And a closer look at the sectors, you can see fast and flowing in the first one. Redgate, a little bit slower than the Craner Curbs, in towards the old hairpin, through Starkey's, in towards McLean's. That's sector number 2. Sector 3, through Coppice, into the Fogarty S's after the back straight. And then the slow hairpins of the Melbourne Loop and Goddard's complete the lap here in Leicestershire. Race 1 winner was Vander Mark yesterday. Doesn't quite hold the race record though. That goes to Jonathan Ray from 2016. Well, today in WorldSBK it's going to be unpredictable. This man here won yesterday afternoon, but he's going to leave him hungry for more. Will he be able to take victory here in race number 2? Milwaukee Aprilia are looking to do battle from the front row of the grid. Savadori and Lavati looked strong in the race yesterday. Can they convert that to a stronger result this afternoon? Hometown hero Alex Lowe's will be hoping for hometown glory from pole position for race 2. He finished 4th in race 1. Can he convert that into a top result? Meanwhile, Jonathan Ray has got his sights set on the victory record. 59 wins he's on. He wants win number 60 though. Well, a very good afternoon from a bright and sunny Donington Park circuit here in Leicestershire. It's the 6th round of the Matul FIM Superbike World Championship. My name's Tom Brooks. Alongside me is Steve English, and what an exciting race we are set for here this afternoon. It was an absolute corker yesterday, with Vander Mark becoming the first ever Dutch winner in World Superbike, the first Yamaha win as well since 2011, and the first non-Kawasaki or Ducati victory since 2016 at Sepang, when Nicky Hayden took the checkered flag. So it's all going to be unpredictable. It's said to be the same here this afternoon. What are we going to have though after the 23-lap race? Well, we know that Alex Lowe's, he starts on pole position with Lorenzo Savadori and Eugene Lavati alongside him. You can see the conditions here. You can see East Midlands Airport is located very close to the circuit. 23 degrees out there in the air temperature. One of the hottest weather conditions that we've had over the course of this weekend. 33 degrees out on track, so nice and warm. Might be a bit more unpredictable than yesterday. Wind has picked up here. It's blowing in a southeasterly direction now at 11 miles an hour. You can see the flags blowing in the wind there, with the fans sat at the top of the Craner Curbs. However, it shouldn't affect these riders too much over the course of this race. See a lady there with the Chaz Davies hat on. However, Chaz having a very difficult race here yesterday afternoon, and you can see the fans here in the paddock as well. It's absolutely packed down there at Donington Park's paddock. Full of the paddock show, of course, where fans can get up close to riders and former WorldSBK legends and get the chance to get involved in the action. Here are the results from the first race of the weekend though. You can see Vander Mark was the man on top, on board the Yamaha, ahead of Jonathan Ray and Tom Sykes. Alex Lowe's just missing out on the podium in 4th place. Lorenzo Savadori, easily his best result, outperforming his teammate Eugene Lavati in 5th position. Loris Baz in 7th, then comes Chaz Davies. A difficult day for Ducati all round, really. He was only 8th quickest at the end of the day. Then comes Leon Camier inside the top 10. Jordi Torres, Michael Ruben Rinaldi, Tadej Mercado, Brad Ray on his WorldSBK debut with a couple of points. Then comes Jacobson, Jake Gagne, Luke Motti in 17th, Andre Jezek, the Czech rider in 18th position. Roman Ramos down in 19th place. Nick Caneper in 20th. Toprak Razgatlioglu. Marco Melandri, who had a crash and later remounted, down in 22nd. and Gino Rea in 23rd position after a difficult day in his World SBK debut, with Xavi Flores, as you saw, failing to finish, and likewise Mason Law as well, also wildcarding here this weekend. But Steve, we had an absolute cracker of a race yesterday afternoon, very unpredictable. Nobody saw Michael Vander Mark taking that victory.
We had exactly the race that we needed, Tom. We managed to see Yamaha get back onto the top step of the podium, their first victory in World SBK since 2011. Michael Vander Mark's first career victory, the first ever Dutch winner in World SBK, and there was a certain buzz around the paddock last night just with the change in the air. We've seen Yamaha quick over the last couple of years. This was an important win, as Michael Vander Mark said. We did this on merit, and that really is key for Yamaha. There was no wet race. Yamaha were fast all the way through last season. If they had won a race last year, we wouldn't have been surprised. There's been regulation changes for this season, but Yamaha haven't suddenly turned fast because of those changes. They've been fast with the progress that's been made over the course of the last couple of seasons. You can see Vander Mark on the left, his crew chief Les Pearson on the right, and Mikey was saying after the race yesterday that he got a memory on Facebook that said it was 4 years since he won here in World Supersport. He took a screenshot of that, sent it to Les, and used it as a bit of inspiration. He was certainly inspired yesterday. This is the race-winning overtake. Basically took advantage of Tom Sykes having a small bobble as he exited the foggy S's, and he got down the inside into the Melbourne Loop. Great riding from Vander Mark. Afterwards, Jonathan Rea said that basically he had no chance of being able to go with Vander Mark. Mikey was really committed to taking that race victory, and Jonathan Rea made a mistake in the final couple of laps, and he just eased off to the flag. But Michael Vander Mark, really strong performance to take that victory.
Absolutely brilliant stuff from Michael Vander Mark, and you can see the emotion on the Crescent Racing team yesterday afternoon on the pit wall and in Parc Ferme after the race. So it was really, really good to see. This man here on the other side of the garage, though, Alex Lowe's, some new leathers for this weekend with even more pink flashes on it. You can see it's pretty distinctive to pick him out on board that Pata Yamaha machine. He finished fourth in race one here yesterday, took a podium last year in race one, so didn't manage to better his result, but both riders inside the top five yesterday afternoon. Cause for them to be celebrating, and he'll be hoping to get himself on the box today, starting from pole position.
Yeah, for Lowe's, this is his first race two pole position of the season. Of course, he did start from pole in Assen as well. Lowe's has been able to make good starts through this season. Fades a little bit in the second half of the race, which is surprising. It's very counter to the norm for Lowe's. Usually he's been a little bit slower to get going, and then as the race progresses, as tyres wear for other riders, that's where his style seems to really find its own. But this year's Yamaha just not quite gelling as it normally would for Lowe's, but he'll feel confident about being able to have a strong run today. He had decent speed yesterday, just couldn't maintain the pace of the leading trio of riders. You can see some fans just soaking up the sun. Seeing a little bit too much of some fans there on the hills around Donington Park, but the weather really has picked up, Tom. There was some talk that we could have rain here round about 1 o'clock local time, so in 20 minutes, just before the start of this race. But definitely looking at our commentary box window, should be fine for this race, hopefully fine for the rest of the day. There is a big wind blowing here at Donington Park, which can cause a few issues for some of these riders, but hopefully, you can see there were a few issues for the two Kawasaki riders. They actually made contact with one another, with Jonathan Rea and Tom Sykes just running each other fairly wide through a couple of corners. It was great to see Sykes have some fight and really start to give as good as he gets from Jonathan Rea over the course of their 3-4 years as teammates. Time and time again, we've seen Sykes look a little bit timid in taking that fight to Jonathan Rea. Yesterday, he was going bar to bar with him.
Absolutely, and we saw it, world champion. Keep an eye out for him over the course of this one. Starts, of course, down in 8th position on the grid after finishing second in race one. This man here, though, here he is. You can see the engine allocation as well. He's withdrawn one engine. They've used 3 engines out of the 7 that are available.
I mentioned the weather just now, and just after getting a text message from one of our colleagues down in pit lane, just giving us a few bits of information through the course of today, and he said that down in pit lane, Rinaldi is actually practicing changes to his helmet as well, just how quickly he can get the visor change to be able to get a clear view in case we do have rain. You can see the sun though here at Donington Park. It's certainly giving all of these riders a warm track temperature, and hopefully we manage to have a clear race here in terms of the weather. You can see down into the Milwaukee pit box, that's Lorenzo Savadori's bike, and Savadori, he'll start today's race second. He was 5th yesterday, just in front of his teammate Eugene Laverty. And for Sean Muir and the Milwaukee Aprilia team, really important to get a couple of good results, because as Sean Muir said, at the moment he's trying to sell promise and potential to sponsors for next season. He needs some solid results, and yesterday really was a solid result. 5th and 6th for the two Aprilias. Exactly what they needed, really. It's been a challenging season for them, of course. Eugene Laverty out due to injury after that crash he had in Thailand, returned last time out and will outperform his teammate Lorenzo Savadori. And Savadori finally bringing the goods after what's been a very difficult start to his 2018 campaign.
Be interested to see how they fare over the remainder of this season. Be interested to see how they fare in the race as well. I'm expecting them to be quite strong at the start, but we saw they weren't necessarily that strong at the end of the races when the tyres were going off.
Yeah, that's been the story of the last couple of years for Aprilia. Eugene Laverty saying after yesterday's race, he was actually quite surprised with the pace that he had. He was expecting it to be a little bit slower, but actually quite happy with how the rear tyre was able to wear. He was worried that maybe there would be some issues with that rear tyre wear, but no real problems for the Irishman, and he feels that maybe today he'll be able to press on a little bit further. He said it was really important to have been able to have raced at Imola. He said it was arguably the most physical and demanding race weekend of his career, but it was a gift from God as well, because he's been able to prove that he was fit, and now he's able to come here to Donington Park, get himself up to speed pretty quickly. Laverty, 6th yesterday, and he'll start on the outside the front row, but look out for him in the run down into turn 1.
Yep, absolutely right there, Steve. Loris Baz heads on the second row of the grid. This man here, Jordi Torres, difficult weekend for MV Augusta, Steve, as well. He lines up in the middle of the 5th row of the grid, but it's been a challenge for them. Technical problems on Friday, things not going their way yesterday either.
Yeah, really has been a struggle for Jordi Torres this weekend. He had a technical problem on Friday with an engine issue, and yesterday he really wasn't able to do any more than pick up a couple of points, and it was a struggle for him. This is a track where in the past the MV Augusta's been strong.
Absolutely right there. You were completely correct in saying that there, Steve. Leon Camier here last year, 6th in both race 1 and race 2 on board that MV Augusta. So will he be able to try and do something on the MV Augusta, Jordi Torres, this weekend? Well, he's 14th on the grid. He's going to have an uphill task.
Definitely going to be a challenge for Torres. He's lining up just alongside Leon Camier on that 5th row of the grid. Camier's expected to be able to make some progress today. He said after yesterday that the key thing this weekend was really just to be able to prove his fitness and be able to show that he was back in action for this weekend. The priority was just to make sure he was able to have a decent rhythm through the race, nice and consistent pace, and not really to attack too much. So for Leon Camier, it'll be interesting to see how he approaches today's race.
Well, one of the talking points of yesterday afternoon were the tyres that Michael Vander Mark was on. He was on the same competitive tyre, but the larger contact patch, the option of tyre. So what do we think is going to happen for this afternoon, and what are the main differences between those tyres that we were talking about?
Well, what was interesting was we got a tyre sheet that said that Alex Lowes was on a different tyre to Michael Vander Mark. Lowes was actually on the same tyre as Vander Mark. Vander Mark was just able to make it work a lot better. The big issue for that larger contact rear tyre is actually the changes of direction. For quick changes of direction at Imola, this was a concern for a lot of riders, where they just couldn't quite make that tyre work. Vander Mark's had issues in the past with tyre wear and excessive wear, a lot of that coming from his riding style, so this new tyre really is quite useful for Vander Mark, and he's been able to take good advantage of it. We saw that Marco Melandri took advantage of it in Imola as well. Melandri was able to get a race 1 podium there, and clearly it worked well for Vander Mark. Didn't quite work as well for his teammate Alex Lowes, so it'll be interesting to see the steps that have been made from the Yamaha rider for today to be able to start from pole. Is he going to have the pace at the end of the race?
Well, absolutely. Will this man have the pace at the end of the race? He starts, of course, from 7th on the grid, does Tom Sykes. So, despite finishing 3rd yesterday, he's arguably in a better position going down towards that first corner than teammate Jonathan Ray and Michael Vander Mark, who will line up alongside him. That KRT machine, we know, working very well here this weekend. We didn't quite expect the Yamahas to be fighting up the front as much as they were. Thought they might be fighting for a few laps, but the fact that they managed to hold that pace right until the very end was very impressive. Speaking of very impressive, the man whose bike we're just going past, Brad Ray, made his WorldSBK debut yesterday afternoon. Couple of points on the board for him. Not bad at all.
Yeah, Bradley Ray having a good outing yesterday, and it was interesting just to talk to some of the British media. I was talking to Ollie Rushby from Motorcycle News, and he was down chatting to Brad Ray, and the team were saying that if they were to take the race distance for the British Championship race that Bradley Ray won compared to yesterday's pace, obviously track conditions very different, but Bradley Ray was 40 seconds faster in yesterday's race than he would have been in the BSB race. So it really does show the differences in the track conditions for one thing, but also the progress that can be made whenever you go up against some of the best riders in the world. Really impressive stuff from Bradley Ray to be able to pick up his points. He'll start in the 4th row of the grid, and he's had a really solid weekend so far. Talking to a few team managers up and down the paddock just about what their thoughts are on Ray, and they've said he looks like he's an impressive rider, and they're really hoping that he's able to make that step, and it'd be interesting to see whether or not he gets an opportunity on the world stage. One of the teams that he's been linked with is actually with the Milwaukee team. You can see Sam Lowe's in the middle, Neil Hodgson on the right, 2 world champions, and we also saw Commonwealth champion Sandy Ryan. She's a recent winner of a gold medal in Commonwealth boxing, so impressive fighter for her, and then need some fighting spirit from Lowe's as well this weekend. Of course, they're here for Alex Lowes, starting from pole position.
Yep, Alex Lowes, keep an eye out for him on board that Yamaha. If he's able to get a good start, you never know, he might be doing a Vander Mark yesterday and trying to fight at the front of the grid. But the men from behind are going to have to make their way through. Tom Sykes, of course, Jonathan Ray as well. It's going to be a bit of a challenge for them going down towards those first couple of corners. You can see the activity here on this grid with this fantastic wide shot. It's absolutely jam-packed down there. Such a brilliant atmosphere here at Donington Park. So many people out and about on the grid, and so many people, of course, trying to just get closer to the riders, closer to the action, and probably closer to this man here, Alex Lowe's 27 years old, of course, raced in World Superbikes now for quite a few years. Started out with the Volcom Crescent Suzuki team at the start of his career, and then moved over to Pata Yamaha a couple of years ago. It's finally paying dividends for the Pata Yamaha team with their race victory. Best lap as well for Jonathan Ray in race 1. He continues the Pirelli Best Lap Award, so gets a couple of umbrellas to keep him shaded from the sunshine down on the grid. Now, we were talking about the weather earlier on, Steve, just whilst we have a quick break from the riders on the grid. And I was actually down in pit lane during warm-up having a look at the riders. Every single team that came in, they were all doing pit lane practice, changing the tyres on the bikes.
It really is one of the key things to do when your rider comes in, and you can see there with Eugene Laverty, Phil Marin, and it looks like John Laverty's on the umbrella duties this weekend as well. So the duties of a brother always having to be on call there. And for Eugene Laverty, he's certainly on call for this weekend. You can see him with Sean Muir on the right, Phil Marin, his crew chief, on the left, and definitely just getting ready for today's race. This will be a 23-lap race, but they'll try and make that progress. Looking at the weather, Tom, one of the key things for the riders is if they do have to come into the pit lane, there is a pit intervention time in World SBK. Hopefully, we don't need to keep an eye on this during the Superbike race, but you have to spend a minimum of 48 seconds inside the pit lane. So if you come in, you change tyres, you need to be 48 seconds in the pit lane. When you look at the pit stop practices, you also see teams and riders just getting little changes to the bikes where they'll soften or stiffen the suspension.
Speaking of the pit lane as well, we just heard down from our man on the grid that Gino Rio will be starting the race from the back of the grid. He's actually in pit lane, so he'll be joining the back of the grid on the warming up lap and then starting the race from the very back as well, which he was only going to start from 23rd on the grid, so it's just a couple of positions back for the rider from London. Also making his World SBK debut this weekend. Now, this man here, Loris Baz, qualified in 3rd position on Saturday, actually had a very good race yesterday afternoon, Loris Baz, and really good performance for him. Good to see the Altea BMW team finally fighting up the front after what's been a very challenging season, Steve.
Yeah, for Loris Baz, he said that when you start from the front row, you do expect to be able to challenge for a top 5 at least. He was able to come away with 7th place at the flag, but he'll start 4th on the grid for today's race. It's actually the most positive race weekend we've seen from Baz so far. You can see Leon Haslam here outside of the 2nd row for Leon, and he actually had a bit of a clash with his teammate at the end of yesterday's race. Basically what happened was you had Haslam, Toprak and Chaz Davis all pretty close to one another, and Haslam came down into the foggy S's in the lead of that group. Toprak Razgatlioglu ran through the chicane, coming down in towards the Melbourne loop. It seemed like the Turkish rider was letting Haslam through, cede that position so that you don't get a penalty, and then suddenly he turned in on Haslam and just clipped the back end of his bike. Very easy to do that just as you try and get back in to get underneath and the run into Goddard's, but clash ensued, and both those riders ended up with Toprak on the floor and Haslam losing a spot, with Chaz Davis able to come through and finish 8th. Disappointing weekend so far for Davis, though.
It really has been a disappointing weekend for Ducati all round here this weekend. Chaz Davis, as you said there, Steve, just not going his way at all. Managed to recover into 8th position following the misfortunes of the riders in front of him at the time, but otherwise he's just been off colour. The bike's not looked good. Marco Melandri, his teammate, had a crash in the race as well. It's just not worked at all, has it?
Nightmare weekend for Ducati. When you talk to the riders, some of them saying that Xavi Fares, the bike's completely unrideable. Chaz Davis, when we go into the pit box, we haven't really seen him and his crew chief Alberto Colombo getting too upset about it. It just seems that the bike just doesn't quite have the pace. But for Melandri, he says the changes of direction are the issue for him, and gear ratios could be a concern for Ducati as well. Obviously, with a fixed gear ratio and reduced revs for this year, there's going to be some races where your bike just struggles. This seems to be one of them for Ducati. There's a lot of change in the direction here, and if you're not quite in the right rev range, suddenly those gyroscopic forces take a lot more action to try and make those moves down through the Craner curves and the opening half of the lap, and that could be a factor for Ducati.
Well, this circuit really is one that punishes mistakes as well. If you go off wide and you run off line and you have to come back and regroup, if you fall out of the group that you're battling in, it really can put pay to your race, and it's hard to make that ground up here at Donington Park as well. It's a circuit that often does lend itself to breakaway racing. You'll see groups of 2 or 3 riders, perhaps even a few more, but often there's not particularly huge groups of riders that battle amongst one another. And we saw that yesterday with the leading trio.
And that was the key thing. It was when you made your mistakes, other riders were able to make the moves on you, whether it was down into the old hairpin, whether it was into the Melbourne loop. That's where most of the moves get made here. We also saw through Coppice that contact between, as we saw there, Tom Sykes on the number 66 bike and Jonathan Ray on the number 1 bike. You can see Larry Carter down there trying to get a quick word with Toprak Razgatlioglu, and Larry getting a bit stage fright there.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, well, he's improving his English, but he's still got a little bit of a way to go. It's actually team boss Manuel Pachetti's birthday today. You can see the Turkish flags waving on in support of Razgatlioglu.
And Toprak gave those fans a lot to cheer about this morning, led the way in morning warm-up.
Absolutely brilliant stuff from Toprak Razgatlioglu. We keep on talking about his fantastic performance in WorldSBK so far, and that continuing with that performance in warm-up.
Yeah, and you can see Jonathan Ray just down on the grid there with Dave Aldana. Of course, Dave, an American flat track racer, made the transition over to short circuit racing, and he's had a pretty good career. He's won the Daytona 200, he's won the Suzuka 8 Hours. I think he's a Grand National champion in flat track, so he's been able to really rack up the wins over the years. And a Hall of Fame member for American motorsports, so a real legend there. He was actually one of the first teammates in short circuit racing for Eddie Lawson as well.
Oh, there you go. There he is on the grid. You can see Dave Aldana, a former US flat track rider. It says on the graphic on the screen, as Steve said, he gave him quite the accolades that he's got there. So absolutely brilliant stuff for Dave Aldana.
Yeah, a real legend of the sport over in the US, and here's a guy that could have the potential to be a bit of a legend in the next few years. Bradley Ray certainly impressed a lot of people. Just turned 21, and he's back at the scene of his first ever BSB victory. He won here, did the double at Easter weekend on his Suzuki, and he's running here on a full BSB spec bike, so doesn't have a lot of electronics. It's just got the base package that they run in BSB, so he's really having to adapt to that. As I said though, 40 seconds faster than his pace when he won the race. Conditions very different, but Bradley Ray's also a different rider already compared to then. That bit of confidence that comes from winning, getting to the front, just can make a big change for riders.
And as you said, Steve, as well, he's potentially been linked with the Milwaukee Aprilia team.
Yeah, there has been some talk in the British press and the British paddock that Milwaukee might make a switch towards running Suzuki for next season, and that could well bring Bradley Ray in. Even if they do make the much talked about switch to BMW, Bradley Ray could be very much in play for that seat. And of course for Ray, that's now the key thing is to come in, have a good result here in race 2, pick up some more points and show exactly what he can do. I was down in the motorhome area a couple of days ago, and Bradley Ray was sitting out. His dad was on the barbecue. It was a proper old school day for him, and you can see the fans looking on expectantly for a big race here at Donington Park.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Everybody here waiting in anticipation. You can see a few clouds actually gathering overhead now, so maybe that weather is going to come in a little bit quicker than perhaps we were expecting. This man here, though, he'll be happy come rain or shine. Leon Camia, 13th on the grid for him, so a little bit further down the order than he would have liked, but I'm sure he's just going to be happy to be back on track and back at a peak fitness level.
And that's the one thing for Cam here. He said that it is just a case of trying to prove himself, get himself ready, be consistent, and that's all he's trying to do. You can see that we're just closing in on just over 5 minutes until the start of this race. 23-lap race, and Tom, just looking at our commentary box, I can see the wind is still blowing, and it's blowing in quite a few more clouds for these riders to deal with. Just looking at Jordi Torres, he was up on stage as well yesterday.
Yep, he was, and doing a pretty terrible rendition of La Bamba as well with Taddy Mercado and Roman Ramos.
In fairness, I'm yet to hear a good rendition of La Bamba, but Jordi Torres, as we said a couple of minutes ago, on that MV Agusta, that's a bike that has worked quite well here at Donington Park in the past. 2 top 6 finishes for Leon Camier last year, but very different package this year in terms of what you're able to do because of the regulation changes to rev limits and what gearings you have to use, so sometimes not quite seeing the same sort of consistency year on year. But Jordi Torres, after a technical problem on Friday, able to bounce back from that. Alex Lowe's trying to bounce back from what would have been a disappointing performance from him in yesterday's race to finish 4th when he sees his teammate win the race.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen over the course of this one. Just looking at the weather conditions on the weather app that I've got on my telephone here, and it says that the weather's been pushed back to around about 6 p.m. there and thereabouts is when we should expect the weather, so it shouldn't affect us here this afternoon. Every time we've looked at it, it's just been pushed back by a couple of hours or so, so it shouldn't be too much of a factor here for this Superbike race. The cloud coming overhead will, of course, make the circuit cooler, but that could even play into the advantage of these riders, especially this man here, Luke Mossy, lines up 16th on the grid, actually has very much impressed replacing Yoni Hernandez this weekend.
You can see Lucio Petruccini on the right hand side, and this is actually what we saw from Luke Mossey so far this weekend, it's the best qualifying effort we've seen from a Petruccini bike so far this season. Obviously, he's a home rider. He knows his way around Donington Park, but he doesn't know a bike with electronics, and he's been able to jump onto this thing and show better than what we've seen from Hernandez already this season. And that's something that's going to cause a bit of concern for Yanni Hernandez, because throughout the course of the season so far, we haven't really seen flashes of what Yanni can do. 5 minutes till the start of the race, Tom.
Yep, 5 minutes at the start of the race as the Cupra safety car departs from the grid, and the tension is in the air. You can feel it, can't you, here at Donington Park? It is going to be hugely exciting. It's unpredictable. That's the thing we absolutely love about World SBK and motorcycle racing, and there's absolutely no guarantee as to what's going to happen. All we know is that Alex Lowe's starts from pole position with the two Aprilias of Savadori and Eugene Laverty alongside. This man here, Andre Jezek, he lines up 17th on the grid. He is on the middle of the 6th row with Tati Mercado for company. It's
been a tricky start to the season for Andre Jezek, but just looking down from our commentary box onto the grid, as you said, two Aprilias, and then you've got Loris Baz before we get the Ducati of Chaz Davis and Leon Haslam's Kawasaki. And Haslam struggled so far this weekend. He switched off all the electronics on his bike. He's not really feeling at home on that Pachetti bike. And then on the third row of the grid, we've got Sykes Ray and Vander Mark. If Lowe's makes a good start, he could be able to use a bit of a roadblock between himself and those podium finishers from yesterday.
Well, time will tell. This man here, Tati Mercado, he'll be hoping for some better fortunes. He was in good spirits during the concert yesterday and hurting everybody else's ears at the paddock show when he was singing La Bamba. However, he lines up down in 18th position on the grid. This man here, though, with work to do from 8th position. You can see Jonathan Ray there on board the Kawasaki. This is your front row then. Eugene Laverty in your forefront of your shot. Then comes Lorenzo Savadori, the Italian rider, on the Italian bike, the Milwaukee Aprilia. Your pole sitter at the front of the grid is Alex Lowe's. What will he be able to do, the 27-year-old from Lincoln? Can he convert it into a win? Will it be Yamaha on top in 23 laps time? Only time will tell here at World SBK. Race 2 is about to get underway. Place your bets. Let's get ready to find out and see what will happen here at Donington Park. Tom Brooks and Steve English here with you in the commentary box. Let's take a look at the grid for the start of race 2, shall we? It's Lowe's, Savadori and Laverty on the front row of the grid. Then comes Loris Baz, Chaz Davies and Leon Haslam on board the Pachetti Kawasaki, heading the second row. On the third row of the grid, then it's Sykes, Ray, Vander Mark from the podium finishes from race 1, Razgatlioglu, Bradley Ray, and then Marco Melandri on row 4. Row 5, Leon Camia, Jordi Torres, Michael Ruben Rinaldi. Row 6, Luke Mossey, Andre Jezek and Tati Mercado on the Eurolat Racing Kawasaki. Row 7, Jacobson, Ramos and Gagne. Row 8 is Xavi Forez, Gino Ria and Nicolo Canepa. And then row 9 is Mason Law. As you can see at the bottom of your screen, Gino Ria to start from the back of the grid after missing the sighting lap as well.
Yeah, Mason Law on the back of the grid, and yesterday was a real difficult day for the wild card. He'd have crashed in Superpole, went to the grid, the team noticed a problem with the bike, so he wasn't able to take the start. So he'll make his World SBK debut today as the riders move away from the starting grid, head towards Redgate. Tom, this really is one of those great circuits that we visit over the course of the season. Donington Park, a historic circuit.
Absolutely. Opened in 1931, was closed due to World War II, of course, reopened in 1977. And believe it or not, the first ever race that was held here in Donington Park was a motorcycle race back on Whit Monday, many, many years ago when it opened in 1931.
You can see these fans, that's still the exact same pictures that you would have seen all those years ago. The Craner Curbs, iconic in World SBK history and racing history as well. You can see all these riders just heading down towards the Old Hairpin. It's faster here. This is one of the key overtaking spots on the lap. You can just shove a bike down the inside and hope to make that bike stick. But on the run through, Schwantz now in towards McLean's. This is where we saw a lot of moves being made in the course of the British Talent Cup race and over the course of the races this weekend so far. But the run from McLean's up towards Coppice, the riders hold the same gear all the way up through that, so it's easy to be a little bit lazy on the exit of that and leave yourself open for an attack into Coppice. Head down the back straight. There's a little hump on the back straight. You can see the bike's just getting a little bit of a wheelie there. Heavy braking into the foggy S's. It does flow through there. It's all about being able to maintain your momentum. You can make a move into there, but you don't see too many moves. The moves get made into here, the Old Hairpin. We're riding on board with Tom Sykes. This is where he was overtaken yesterday by Michael Vander Mark for the race-winning overtake. And then you head down in towards Coppice, in towards Goddard's. Goddard's off camber, really easy to get yourself in a little bit too hot, run a little bit wide and leave yourself open for attack.
Well, Stevie, you and I are not gambling men, but who's your money on for this race? Who are you going for?
I've got a horrendous gambling problem, so I'm not putting money down on anything. But you can see Jonathan Ray. Always a safe bet to say Jonathan Ray is going to find a way to the front of the field. And here at Donington Park, we've seen Tom Sykes really strong over the last few years. He picked up 9 wins in a row. Alex Lowes, he's after seeing his teammate Michael Vander Mark claim his first ever World SBK victory. He'll be more motivated than ever to go out and win in front of his home crowd.
Well, there is the front row of the grid. There is the Crescent Racing Yamaha team watching on. A race win yesterday, and their other man on the other side of the garage, Alex Lowes, starts from pole position. Milwaukee Aprilia's on the front row as well, with Lorenzo Savadori and Eugene Laverty. Look to the top left corner of your screen. Wait for those red lights to come on as we get ready to go green here in Donington Park. Those red lights come on, the revs rise here at Donington, and it's Savadori out in front through Redgate. Jonathan Ray gets pushed wide as he tries to make his ascension through the field. Tom Sykes also making very good ground. Likewise, Leon Haslam as well. Is that Haslam up into second place, going in towards the old hairpin? I think it is. Brilliant stuff from Haslam, and here comes Baz as well. He pushes Laverty wide.
We saw into the old hairpin there, Baz trying to make a move on Eugene Laverty. It allows Alex Lowes to profit from that, pick up a couple of spots. It was a bad start for Lowes, but a great start for Leon Haslam to be able to come from 6th on the grid up to 2nd. But Lorenzo Savadori leading the way.
Big moment there for Eugene Laverty through McLean's. He looks over as well at the retaining field going through, so we could have a problem here for Eugene Laverty. Only on the opening lap, that front row start going to waste for the Irishman. He'll be disappointed with that result, and the challenge for the lead is going to be very interesting going down towards the Fogarty S's. You can see Alex Lowes trying to challenge against Leon Haslam into the Fogarty S's. He gets the move done and dusted, and he's passed.
Yeah, really good move from Lowes to get down the inside into the Foggy S's. That's a tough place to make the moves. The corners flow all the way through there, but Lowes, as you can see, he's keen to get himself back to the front after that bad start, and he'll try and make a move on Lorenzo Savadori, probably on the way into Goddard's if he's close enough.
Well, this is going to be very interesting going down in towards Goddard's. No moves being made there. Lorenzo Savadori, very defensive line for him. Very early apex through that corner. And you can see one of the riders running wide. Is that Michael Vander Mark? I think it was. Yep, he's trying to go side by side with Jonathan Ray as Ray tries to make his ascension through the field. Currently in 6th position is Johnny Ray. We ride on board with the 3-time world champion now. He slices his way up the inside of Michael Vander Mark into Redgate. Does he get the move done and dusted? No, Vander Mark is there on exit and keeps the position into the Craners.
Good riding from Vander Mark, but his teammate Lowes looks like he's going to try and make a move into the old hairpin. You can see how much of the track Savadori's having to use. What's interesting as well, just got the tyre sheet from Pirelli. A lot of riders now opting to use the same tyre that Michael Vander Mark used yesterday. Jonathan Ray, Marco Melandri, Chaz Davis, Forrest and Rinaldi all making that change.
Here comes Haslam as well. He's on the inside into 2nd position. So Leon Haslam on the Pachetti Kawasaki is through against Lorenzo Savadori. Brilliant stuff down in towards McLean's and through Coppice. This is an incredible part of the lap. You can see just how hard these riders are having to work, and you can already see here, Steve, as well, the top 3 breaking away from Vander Mark, Baz and Ray.
Yeah, the gap between Michael Vander Mark and Savadori down to half a second. Ray makes the move on Loris Baz on the way into the Foggy S's. You can make the move if you're faster than the other riders. It looked like Jonathan may have ran over the exit curve there through the corner, so he ceded that position back to Loris Baz. Doesn't lose a spot to Tom Sykes behind him. But you'd imagine that Jonathan gets a little bit wide on the run into the S's.
Oh, and Haslam's gone down. Haslam goes down at the Melbourne Loop. That's a big shame for Leon Haslam. Absolute disaster from 2nd position in this race.
Haslam down there. The yellow flags were out when Sykes made the move on Jonathan Ray. That's something that race control are going to have to keep an eye on to see if Sykes gives back that position.
Well, that is a big shame for Leon Haslam regardless, and this is going to be very controversial as well between the 2 KRT bikes, as Steve said, with Tom Sykes making the move on Jonathan Ray. You can see as we ride on board with his teammate just going down in towards the Craner curve. This is going to be very, very tasty indeed. This position, he gets the move done and dusted. Lorenzo Savadori still now coming under pressure from Michael Vander Mark. Vander Mark on the attack and close versus Jonathan Ray through the left-hander. They're pushing each other's limits. This is incredible, and Sykes just manages to hold on.
Yeah, really good move by Sykes through the Craner curves. It looks like Jonathan Ray tried to get down the inside, but Baz was able to actually pick them both off on the way down in towards the old hairpin. You can see how tight it is between Sykes and Ray. Yesterday we saw Sykes go bar to bar with his teammate Jonathan Ray, certainly taking that same approach today.
Very aggressive stuff from Jonathan Ray and Tom Sykes, the 2 KRT riders working hand in hand but pushing each other's limits, as we said, down into the Fogarty S's. That's where Ray ran wide last time around. No such dramas for the 3-time world champion, and keep an eye out for Toprak Razgatlioglu close behind as well. He could certainly be one to watch. Into the old hairpin, Marco Melandri's gone well wide. He's going to need a ticket to get back in almost from there.
Yeah, breaking the key issue here this weekend so far for Melandri, and once again there into the old hairpin. A little bit of an issue, but he tries to get down the inside into Goddard's. Jonathan Ray looks like he's ran a little bit wide, able to at least hook up the 2nd apex through Goddard's and exit well.
Over the timeline we go, on board with Tom Sykes then. Ray versus Sykes has changed position, so Ray now into 4th, Tom Sykes into 5th position. Fastest lap last time around from Alex Lowe's, the race leader.
Yeah, Lowe's knows that he needs to open a gap between himself and his teammate Michael Vander Mark before Vander Mark makes the move on Lorenzo Savadori in second. You can see Vander Mark, he's just through on the way through the Crane of Curves. Good move, a brave move there from Vander Mark. Yamaha running 1-2. The Kawasaki's just fighting with one another in 4th and 5th.
What a move from Michael Vander Mark. He's up into 2nd place then. So the Dutchman leads a Yamaha 1-2, or he's second in the Yamaha 1-2 at the moment. His teammate there, Alex Lowe's, in the forefront of his shot, leading the way for the time being. Yamaha looking very strong as Ray wanted a little bit wide there through McLean's. He's under very big pressure at the moment from his teammate Tom Sykes, and actually Toprak Razgatlioglu to an extent as well. Here's the replay of the overtake for the race lead, Steve, going down through the craters.
Yeah, down in towards Crane of Curves, that left-hander down the hill. Really good move there from Vander Mark, but his bike is a lot faster than Savadori as well. He's able to put his bike anywhere he wants. Savadori's having to ride a little bit defensive. The gap between Vander Mark and Lowe's at the end of the last lap was 1.5 seconds. It looks like it's a little bit closer than that now, though.
Lorenzo Savadori, you can see how much of a tighter line he's favouring in towards that Melbourne loop as well. He gets good at drive out of there, actually, despite taking that tighter line on the inside.
And it's the second half of the lap where Vander Mark was struggling a little bit yesterday compared to the other riders at the front. He was still able to set his pace in the opening half of the lap, and that's where he was able to take advantage of it. Chaz Davis taking advantage there. Marco Melandri running in a little bit too hot into Goddard's. We saw Melandri trying to make that move just a little bit too much.
So we've got the two KRT bikes knocking 7 bells out of each other, and we've got the same with the Aruba IT Ducatis as well. At the moment, it is Davies who's ahead of his teammate. That's for 8th position. Leon Camier also just inside the top 10 as well.
Jonathan Ray with a new fastest lap last time around. He was half a second faster than Alex Lowe's, the race leader. Vander Mark in second. He was around about a 10th of a second faster than his teammate, but he had to make that move through the Crane of Curves.
Sykes really struggling now. He's been dropping off to the back of Toprak Razgatlioglu. You can see how much the Turkish rider is really closing up. He's looked very strong this morning, and he's looking very strong now here in the race. On to the back of him, he latches through McLean's, and surely it's only going to be a matter of time before Razgatlioglu thinks about a bit of a move on his fellow Kawasaki rider, Steve.
And that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to get through on Sykes. We saw yesterday that Sykes struggled in the second half of the race. Toprak running there in 6th position. He needs to get through, make that move, try and go with Jonathan Ray.
So Alex Lowe's leads the race at the moment. He has a 1.4 second advantage over teammate Michael Vander Mark. Will VDM be able to close that gap like we saw yesterday, though?
Yeah, Mikey on this lap, half a second faster than Lowe's as well. So yesterday's race winner, Michael Vander Mark, just picking up that time in the first half of the lap. Let's see what it is as they come across the line. Vander Mark's on course for a really strong lap here, but in Sector 3, Alex Lowe's answering back by a couple of tenths. You can see Toprak's being able to get through on Tom Sykes. Probably made that move into the Melbourne loop.
Good stuff for Toprak Razgatlioglu. So the two Kawasaki riders have exchanged places. Fastest lap once again for Jonathan Ray there, Steve. He's in 4th position currently and closing that deficit down.
Yeah, Jonathan Ray starting the charge now. He was a 1/4 of a second faster than Lorenzo Savadori in front of him. The gap now around about half a second, so you'd imagine that Savadori will start really feeling under pressure from the reigning world champion in the next couple of laps.
Well, this is going to be very, very exciting indeed. Jonathan Ray, as you can see with the graphic on the left-hand side of your screen, closing that gap down to under half a second. It closes by another few hundredths through the first sector as it's all changed a little bit further back as well. Roman Ramos getting mugged by Jake Gagne and Luke Mossy for 17th position. And Ramos just getting that position back actually as well through the next sector. That's very exciting as well, outside of the points, but still some very close racing going on through the field.
And you can see Vander Mark, he's just edging himself ever closer to the race leader. Last time around, he pulled in a 1/4 of a second on Alex Lowe's. So yesterday's race winner, his confidence is going to be high, and getting himself to the front in these early laps means that he's able to at least attack all the way through the race. For sometimes whenever you come through from that 3rd row of the grid, you might have to use up a little bit too much of your tyres to get there. Jonathan Ray and also Michael Vander Mark were able to make good starts, pick up a few spots into turn 1, and then just pick riders off as the race progresses.
Tell you what, VDM is going to be thanking his lucky stars. He's got Lorenzo Savadori between himself and Jonathan Ray at the moment, because that just creates a little bit of a buffer for Vander Mark, just to have a little bit of breathing space at the moment to try and close that gap down to his teammate, doesn't it?
That's the key thing. It's to be able to concentrate on the rider in front of you rather than trying to defend from the rider behind you. You can see the gaps between Lowe's and Vander Mark stays pretty stable. They were actually 2/1000 of a second last time around, the exact same lap time. The gap's 1.1 seconds. Jonathan Ray picked up another couple of tenths of a second on Savadori. You can see he's right there with Savadori. Vander Mark made the move through Crane of Curves. We've seen Jonathan Ray really strong through the left-hander just coming up. Is he going to try and make a move on this lap. Looks like he's a little bit too far back to make that move on Savadori.
Yeah, Savadori a little bit wider line through that corner into the old hairpin though. Ray looking very strong.
Yeah, Ray's going to try and make a move into McLean's, but Jonathan Ray, he might well be thinking about the foggy S's and the Melbourne Loop. That's his key opportunities to get through in Savadori. He's made a move into the S's already. He came close to making a move to Tom Sykes through there as well. So Jonathan Ray really strong through this corner here, Compass. As he exits that, is he going to be close enough to get right underneath Lorenzo Savadori and try and make a move into the foggy S's?
Exceptional drive from the Kawasaki rider. You can see as we ride on board with Jonathan Ray down the back straight into the foggy S's. Not quite close enough on this occasion. Flick it left, then flick it right, and maybe into the Melbourne Loop he might be able to mount a charge. But again, a good exit there for Lorenzo Savadori. So just in the weak points, you see him in the lap. He's just able to find a little bit more in the points where he needs to.
Yeah, that Aprilia works well with a new tyre. It's once the tyre starts to wear a little bit that Savadori starts to struggle. Eugene Laverty starts to struggle as well with that bike as you get into the second half of the race. Once the grip goes, the performance goes from that bike, and Jonathan Ray will know he needs to make that move pretty quickly on Savadori, just be able to keep pace with Michael Vander Mark and Alex Lowes. Yesterday, Jonathan Ray said that as he was able to get through to the front, he could see just how committed Vander Mark was, and he just left himself too much ground to make up to Vander Mark.
Well, through the right-hander we go of Redgate, Toprak Razgatlioglu. He'll be on for 5th position if it stays as it is. Day gets worse for Xavi Forés. Meanwhile, he's just dropped down to 19th position in this race. Xavi Forés and the Barney Racing Team, a weekend to forget here in Leicestershire. Disappointing race all round, really, for Ducati. The only best one is Chaz Davies, who's currently 7th fastest.
It's been an absolute nightmare weekend for Ducati. Rinaldi didn't even make the start, and as you said, Forés and Melandri, they've struggled all the way through this weekend. Davis has been the fastest Ducati all weekend, but it just hasn't been quick enough. As we said, one of the key issues could be that gear ratio for the team, just not quite working well. Here in WorldSBK, you have to use the same ratios the whole way through the season, and that's clearly one of the issues for Ducati here. But no such issues for Jonathan Ray. He's closer than he was last time away to Lorenzo Savadori. He does try and make the move into the foggy S's. That bike's moving around underneath him. Smoke pours off from the boots of Lorenzo Savadori, but Jonathan Ray is able to make that move cleanly into the foggy S's.
Up into 3rd position then for Jonathan Ray on board the Kawasaki. He is going to have his sights quite firmly set on Michael Vander Mark and Alex Lowes out in the front of this race.
Exciting stuff so far, Tom, and you can feel the tension mounting as well with the Yamaha riders out in front. Jonathan Ray now knows that he's a man under pressure to move closer to Michael Vander Mark. We saw yesterday he wasn't quite able to do that, and he'll know that in these early stages of the race, we're not even at half distance yet, he needs to get himself right there with the Yamahas, because in the second half of the race, that's whenever Jonathan Ray really was strong yesterday. If you look back to the last couple of laps, he was able to pull in 3-4 tenths of a second a lap to Vander Mark. Just gave himself too much work to do yesterday.
Well, time will tell on this one. You can see how much VDM is trying to close that gap down. It was 0.6 tenths of a second over the line between the two Pata Yamaha teammates. Here's a replay at the start. You can see Ruben Rinaldi stalled in the background of his shot there, so real problems for Ruben Rinaldi, and he hasn't managed to get going in this race either, so he was out before the green flag, or the lights went green rather. This was Tom Sykes on board going down to the first corner. Very close quarters between Loris Baz and also his teammates.
Yeah, great start there from Jonathan Ray to pick off a couple of places coming through. You can see Michael Vander Mark from 9th on the grid also managing to get a couple of spots. Jonathan Ray got hung out to dry a little bit on the outside of Redgate, but able to pick up those couple of spots off the line. We're right on board here with Alex Lowes, and you can see how close those Kawasaki's came to making contact once again. Chaz Davies got a good start, but like Jonathan Ray, just ran out a little bit too wide through that first corner. Jonathan Ray able to pick off Chaz Davies straight away.
Well, that was exceptional stuff from Jonathan Ray, and exceptional stuff from the 3-time world champion. Now, let's not forget he's chasing victory number 60 here this weekend, and he's chasing number 60 on track as well.
And you can see both of them chasing the 22 of Alex Lowes out in front, but last time around, Vander Mark was able to pick up another couple of tenths of a second, and as you can see, the gap right now, it's all the way down to only a couple of tenths of a second. So in the last 3 laps, they've pulled in a full second on Lowes, similar to what we saw yesterday as well. Lowes not quite having the same pace of the Kawasaki and his teammate as well. So Lowes is out in front, but definitely being hunted down right now. Jonathan Ray with another fastest lap of the race, half a second faster than the Yamaha riders.
Let's not forget, of course, the weather conditions are a little bit hotter than they were this time yesterday, and it's a little bit more muggy as well, humidity. So those climatic conditions might be affecting how these Yamahas are performing so far in this race, Steve. Through the old hairpin we go, and out of it now. So this is going to be very, very interesting, between these guys. Marco Melandri, meanwhile, has managed to get the better of Loris Baz for 8th position. So Baz falling down the order on board that Altea BMW. You can see there the difference in the lap times. Ray half a second faster, but a big moment going through McLean's.
Easy to have that through McLean's. The bike with the gearing that the Kawasaki used, Jonathan saying that it's a little bit lazy. It's easy just to run a little bit wide. You saw him just have a little bit of a bobble as he came through there, feet off the pegs, and just able to keep his momentum and keep upright. Just behind them, Toprak's going to try and make a move in Lorenzo Savadori in the next couple of corners. You can see Sava able to keep the Turkish rider at bay for the moment, but Toprak clearly a lot faster right now than Lorenzo Savadori. Last time around, pulled in half a second. Toprak was actually faster than Lowe's and Vander Mark at the front as well. Is he going to make the move into the Melbourne Loop? Makes the move down the inside, nice and clean from Toprak Razgatlioglu into 4th. This is the best we've seen from Toprak so far this season.
Brilliant stuff from the Turkish rider. He moves into 4th position, as you said there, Steve, and he has now got his sights firmly set on the podium. Will he be able to maybe overhaul Ray, who runs it a bit deep though into Goddard, and that is not going to help his charge. Sava goes back through at the final corner. They're going to run side by side though. A good exit for Razgatlioglu. He's going to try for the outside line. Sava on the inside in towards Redgate, and Savadori on the Aprilia just manages to hold position and hold firm for now.
Yeah, good riding from Savadori. Toprak's fighting for his career best result. Savadori's fighting for his World SBK future. And given what he did yesterday, given how he's raced so far today, he's done a great job to be able to put himself firmly back into contention to hold on to a ride for next season.
This is what we needed to see from the Italian. He runs it a little bit hot
into McLean's. Lowe's will take that tight line into McLean's. And it's all about your exit through here, making sure you're strong on the way through Coppice. The Yamaha works well through Coppice, and it means that it's difficult to make a move on Lowe's on the way into the foggy S's. But you can see how close Jonathan Ray is. He's closer this lap than he's been up to now, so he might feel that he's close enough to try and make a move into the S's.
Well, Eugene Laverty has retired with a technical problem. He's now into pit lane. Here comes Jonathan Ray. He's trying to find his way through. Speaking of finding your way through, Razgatlioglu has managed to get the better of Lorenzo Savadori on this lap as well. This is getting very tight and very close though at the front for the race lead. Just under 8 laps remaining here into the Melbourne Loop. We know Ray is strong here. We've complimented him over the course of this race, and it might just be the saviour that Alex Lowe's needs is his teammate from behind.
Yeah, we saw Jonathan Ray yesterday actually make a few mistakes into the Melbourne Loop as well, having some issues on the way into that corner. So, but you can see Alex Lowe's taking that wide line through Goddard's. That's 2 laps in a row where he's done that. Maybe just having to adjust his line slightly because of tyre wear or some other issue. But Lowe's left himself open to attack from Jonathan Ray. But as long as you're able to hook that bike back in for the second apex, it actually gives you good speed down the pit straight here, and you're able to leave yourself where you can't be attacked on the way into Redgate.
Well, this is a classic in World SBK, isn't it? Coming down through the Craner curves, 3 riders fighting for race victory. Jonathan Ray surely is going to find a way past Alex Lowe's before the end of this race. Chaz Davies is still on the chart in the latter part of this race. He's now passed Lorenzo Savadori into the top 5 for Chaz Davies. That's a good result for the Welshman. Here comes Jonathan Ray though, as we ride on board with him into McLean's. Again, that tighter line from Alex Lowe's.
Yeah, you can see Lowe's goes defensive on the way into McLean's. It means that it's really difficult to make a move into there, but he also exits that corner really well. So Lowe's with that tighter line, you can take that tight line through there. As long as your revs are quite high and you're able just to still maintain your momentum on the exit, you can do that. But Jonathan Ray, is he going to try and make a move into the S's? Looks like he's too far back. Where Lowe's is placing his bike pretty much perfect to avoid getting attacked into the S's. The only problem with it is sometimes you can adjust your line through the S's and leave yourself open for attack on the way into the Melbourne Loop. Is Jonathan Ray going to try and make a move into the loop?
He's down the inside. Gone in too hot? Oh, he's very close, and yep, exactly as you said there, Steve, he's back through, and that surely is going to allow Vander Mark to close up if indeed he tries to make a move. But Jonathan Ray just trying to bite off a little bit more than he could chew there. See, but he goes down the inside of Goddard. Does he manage to make it through? Oh, Lowe's fights it back. They're very close. They're side by side between them. But Jonathan Ray just manages to hold on as they come over the timing line. And now it's Vander Mark versus Lowe's for second position. Here comes VDM up the inside, the Dutchman. He's now into second at Redgate.
Yeah, and you can see Vander Mark able to take advantage of Lowe's having a slightly slower speed on the exit from Goddard's able to make that move into Redgate. Can Vander Mark now bring the challenge to Jonathan Ray? You can see down this Craner curve section, this is where Vander Mark is really strong. He was superb through this section yesterday. Is he going to be able to try and make a move on the way exiting the old hairpin?
Well, that was very close, wasn't it, going through the left-hander? Tell you what, VDM is nothing but aggression in this race from the Dutchman, and you can see that as well, the positions he's putting his bike, the way that bike is making all those sorts of shapes as well, and we know how quick he can be over the course of this lap as well. Will he be able to find a way through though? That is the £64,000 question at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of those situations where you'd certainly be phoning a friend to see what to do, but for all these riders at the front of the field, Vander Mark, is he going to try and make a move into the S's? Probably a little bit too far back to do that, but Alex Lowe's a little bit too tight to make a move on Vander Mark, but it's all about what you can do through the S's into the Melbourne loop. You can see Tear-Off being taken off there for Lowe's. He wants to be able to see everything that's going on in front of him. Vander Mark tries to get down the inside.
Oh, it's very aggressive. Is VDM going to do it? He pushes Ray out wide. Ray has to do it, and Lowe's comes through as well. The two pairs of Yamahas are working together beautifully here, and Vander Mark leads the way with just over 5 laps remaining in towards the final corner of Goddard's, and it is VDM who still has the advantage.
Well, Toprak's been able to pull in a second and a half in the last 2 laps with all this fighting. VDM leads the way here. Michael Vander Mark, winner of yesterday's race. He's trying to win a double victory here at Donington Park, but is Jonathan Ray going to be able to hold that tight line, carry the momentum down the hill towards the old hairpin?
Tell you what, he's having to work for victory number 60 is Jonathan Ray as they come cascading down through the Craner curves. Ray, again, riding aggressively, trying to put his bike in all sorts of shapes to upset Michael Vander Mark. The two, as they increase their pace, just able to gap Alex Lowe's in 3rd position a little bit there.
Yeah, Lowe's losing 0.2 of a second in sector 1 already on this lap. It looks like Jonathan Ray and Michael Vander Mark may have just edged away a little bit far from Alex Lowe's. We could just have the same fight for the win as what we had yesterday. Jonathan Ray's been able to make a couple of moves in this race, but he's ran in a little bit too hot in each of those moves. So is he going to be able to make a clean move on Michael Vander Mark?
Well, this is going to be an absolutely tantalising end to the race. Luke Mossy is now in the points as he gets the better of PJ Jacobson. You can see the gap there that Toprak Razgatlioglu has managed to gain over the last part of this race. The Turkish rider in his debut season on board that Pachetti Kawasaki in 4th position, potentially lining himself up for his first ever podium and the first ever Turkish podium in the Superbike class.
Yeah, and for Toprak, he needs to pick off Alex Lowe's as quickly as possible so he can start taking the fight towards Jonathan Ray and Michael Vander Mark. Alex Lowe's looks like he's able to stay in touch but not able to close that gap on Jonathan Ray. It just looks like maybe the tyres once again just a little bit of an issue there for Lowe's. It has been a struggle through this season in the second half of races. Very different to what we've seen over the course of the last few years from Lowe's, struggling in that second half of the race. You can see that gap between himself and Jonathan Ray in the 2nd position. It's opened up to 3/4 of a second.
Well, Toprak Razgatlioglu, great driving. He's got through Redgate as well. He's all over the back of the number 22 of Alex Lowe's, going through the Craner curves, flicks it right, then flicks it left into the old hairpin. You can see there Michael Vander Mark just putting out a little bit of an advantage here over Jonathan Ray.
10th and a half faster last time around. Toprak's managed to make the move on Lowe's into the old hairpin. So Toprak Razgatlioglu up into a podium spot here on his Pachetti Kawasaki. Great stuff from Toprak to be able to do that. Lowe's trying to hold with Toprak, but he's going to come under fire from Chaz Davis as well. Outside at the front, Vander Mark's been able to open up half a second on Jonathan Ray.
This is the problem we've seen with Alex Lowe's over the course.
Yeah, you can see Lowe's have a quick look over his shoulder as well just to see who's behind him. It's Chaz Davis that's chasing him down, but he knows that that bike's starting to go away from him, having led for most of this race, just not quite having that pace that he needs in these final stages. Vander Mark certainly has that pace, half second of a lead over Jonathan Ray.
Could the Dutchman do the double here at Donington Park? Well, time will tell. Just over 3 laps remaining here in this race. Around into the final sector of the lap we go. Vander Mark on course for it at the moment. Ray doesn't look like he's able to respond.
Yeah, Vander Mark certainly looks like he's got this in hand right now to be able to edge himself away from Jonathan Ray. And
Yoglu with his first ever podium, and Jonathan Ray comes home in 3rd position. Alex Lowe's in 4th. Chaz Davies inside the top 5. Tom Sykes got the better of Savadori on that last lap and finished 6th. Leon Camia on his return finishes in 8th place on board the Red Bull Honda ahead of Torres and Loris Baz, who completes the top 10. Marco Melandri down in 11th position after a very challenging race as well.
50 points for Vander Mark this weekend. He moves himself up to 3rd in the championship standings. He's ahead of Tom Sykes on the count back of victories. But Michael Vander Mark, magical weekend for Magic Michael.
What a race, what a weekend for Michael Vander Mark. He was on the crest of a wave yesterday, and I tell you what, there are going to be some big smiles down in Parc Fermé after this one, probably even bigger than yesterday. Doing one race victory is all right, doing the double is something else.
Yeah, and it really backs up the potential that Vander Mark's been able to show and the Yamaha have been able to show. It's a lot easier to win one race, but to do it back-to-back really shows that yesterday was no fluke for Vander Mark. He was able to win both of these races just on the basis of his speed over the course of this weekend. Really strong stuff from Vander Mark to claim that victory. Ended up being 2.3 seconds clear of Toprak at the flag. Of course, Toprak and Jonathan Ray fighting with one another in those final stages. But Vander Mark so strong in the final third of both races this weekend.
Bit of double Dutch for you here at Donington Park then. Razgatlioglu finishing in second place. You can see how much ground Vander Mark and Razgatlioglu made in that race. 8 positions apiece to come home first and second respectively. Johnny Ray, well, he's going to be wondering where it all got away from him after that one. It was looking so strong in the mid stages and then just towards the end faded completely, didn't he?
Yeah, where did it all go wrong, Johnny? Second and third this weekend, and still not a bad weekend's work for Jonathan Ray. He's been able to extend his championship lead to 64 points over Chaz Davis.
Just incredible. 2 tantalising World SBK races. Jonathan Ray finishing in 3rd position. Another podium on the board for him. He'll be pretty pleased with that. You can see the grid progression from Toprak Razgatlioglu. Started in 10th place, got up to 7th by lap 2, and then just consistently made ground, especially in the latter half of that race. Not quite sure where he found that pace, but that Pachetti Kawasaki clearly suiting these warmer conditions this afternoon.
Yeah, picked them off lap after lap, and Toprak able to have the really strong performance through this weekend. That's what people have expected from Toprak. We've been waiting for him to really have that breakout performance, but I don't think anyone was expecting a breakout performance to be a podium finish on that Pachetti Kawasaki.
Just incredible stuff, really. Absolutely brilliant down in towards Park Ferme. Disappointing race for Leon Haslam, Toprak Razgatlioglu's teammate. We saw him fighting, of course, in and amongst the podium mix, and then it all went peaks on for him. Unfortunately, a crash down at the Melbourne Loop as Razgatlioglu in front or just behind of Jonathan Ray in towards Park Ferme. Round of applause for them. Manuel Pachetti, that'll be a welcome birthday present, a 2nd place finish, but it'll be even more sweet for the Crescent Racing Team at the Yamaha outfit. Into Park Ferme they come. Michael Vander Mark, what a weekend.
Yeah, Vander Mark said yesterday that he was happy for his own win, but a lot happier for Yamaha for the work that they've done over the course of the last few years. This victory is going to mean a lot for Vander Mark. To come through from 9th on the grid to claim that victory, really strong performance. You can see him down there with his crew of mechanics, and you can see how much it means for all of that team. It's going to be great to hear what Mikey has to say once we get the chance to talk to him down in Park Ferme. You can see over to the team, over to some of his family as well, and for Vander Mark, really superb weekend.
I'll tell you what, the odds for Vander Mark taking the victory yesterday afternoon going into the race were 200 to 1. I bet you they were a lot less than that now, and certainly going into Brno they're going to be even more reduced.
And your betting instincts come into the fore once again there, Tom, but for Vander Mark to do the double, I tell you what, you would have gotten long odds on that for the weekend, but really, really impressive stuff and really well deserved from the Yamaha team. You can see Manuel Pachetti, pretty good birthday present for Pachetti.
We've even got better odds on Toprak Razgatlioglu getting on the podium as well. Manuel Pachetti, big smile from ear to ear, and quite rightly so. What a performance from Razgatlioglu. Signed him up, of course, in Superstop 1000 last year. Bit of a kick up the backside as well for Johnny Ray. He does a lot of work to help out Toprak Razgatlioglu. I'll tell you what, he's probably happier to see Toprak down there than he is being on the podium himself.
I'd say he would have been a lot happier if the roles were reversed, the positions were reversed. But talking to Jonathan over the winter about Toprak, he did say that Toprak is one of the most talented riders that he's ever seen, and the things he can do on a bike really impressive, but he also knew that it wasn't going to take long for Toprak to figure a way to get himself into podium contention.
Well, there you go, and it has happened after the 6th round of the championship. 12 races into the 2018 season we are, and Jonathan Ray down there in Park Ferme. You can see Vander Mark celebrating with his team, and boy, are there going to be some celebrations here this evening.
Yeah, plenty of reasons to celebrate up and down the pit lane as well. Just looking down the running order, you can see there Bradley Ray managed to pick up another points finish, and Luke Mossey with his first World SBK points finish as well. And for both of those riders here, it's really been a strong performance for them on their World SBK debuts, but really it's been all about what Michael Vander Mark has been able to do throughout the course of this weekend. Really strong performance all the way through the weekend from Vander Mark. He's been fast in every session, fast in all conditions, and he's down in Park Ferme with Alana Phelps.
Michael Vander Mark, your first victory yesterday and a double today. How do you feel?
It's just incredible. I can't believe it yet, and quite a good race. I thought I struggled a bit, but I was just, I didn't feel as good as yesterday. And then I just waited. I followed Alex, then later followed Johnny, and just used my head. And the last few laps they were having a bit of a fight, and I managed to pull away like yesterday. And it's incredible, to take first victory yesterday, but immediately a double. It's amazing, and thanks to the team because they've been working so hard for this. And yesterday, I gave them a win, and the double was even better. Ja, is geweldig. Ik had zeker niet verwacht om voor een dubbel te gaan. En Eerst in het begin van de race voelde het allemaal niet super, maar ik gebruikte mijn hoofd en zat achter Alex en later komt Johnny voorbij, maar ik bleef gelukkig gewoon rustig. En ja, toen we eenmaal in gevecht waren, toen lukte het mij om er vandoor te gaan. En ja, om gisteren mijn eerste overwinning te pakken was fantastisch, maar om vandaag de dubbel te pakken voor het team is geweldig. En ik hoop dat er nog meer dubbels komen dit jaar.
Very well deserved double for Michael Vander Mark as well. Vander Mark said yesterday that he felt that at times in the past it's been a bit of a struggle for Yamaha. They've worked hard to be able to get themselves into victory contention. Now he feels that once the bike is at 95% of its potential, he should be able to fight for victories. He said the bike wasn't perfect today, Tom, very much able to still fight at the front and take that victory.
I tell you what, that was an absolutely incredible performance, wasn't it, Stephen? It will give the team good confidence going into Brno. Of course, that's a very different circuit to the one we've had here at Donington Park. A lot of a longer lap and a lot more undulations and so on and so forth. But it's going to be interesting, and it will give them, as I said, a lot more confidence going into that next round. Here's Jonathan Ray, finished in third.
Jonathan Ray, a big battle out on track and another podium for the end of the weekend.
Yeah, it was a huge battle, so I really enjoyed the battle. It was quite close. I hope you guys at home enjoyed it, and the fans out there, they've been great. So much travelling support from me this weekend, so thank you very much for that. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit disappointed with myself. I ran into some arm pump issues in the end of that race. I was finding it really difficult to change direction and kind of curves, so I just had to back off, and third's what we could manage today. So a little bit disappointed for me and for my team, because they gave me a great bike that was capable of the top step today, and I couldn't deliver.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Arm pump issues have been a problem in the past for Jonathan Ray here at Donington Park as well. Very physical. He says that the run through the Foggy S's down in towards the Melbourne Loop, one of the most physical sections through the entire season. Clearly a little bit too much for Jonathan Ray, and that would also be a reason why we saw him run a little bit deep into some of the corners and just not quite able to get that bike stopped in time. But still, to come away with 16 points and second place yesterday, extend your championship lead. It's not a bad weekend, all things considered, for Jonathan Ray.
Absolutely brilliant stuff for Jonathan Ray. He'll be pretty pleased with that, extending his championship advantage, as Steve said, to 64 points now at the top of the standings going into the next round in a couple of weeks' time in Brno. Good stuff from the Kawasaki rider. Good stuff also for Toprak Razgatlioglu. He finished second, of course, on his WorldSBK. His first WorldSBK podium, taking that podium here this afternoon. Great late race pace, and he's down in Park Ferme talking to Alana.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, your first World Superbike podium. Congratulations.
Thank you. And today my boss, my team boss, Manuel Puchetti, happy birthday. This position is very good. I'm really happy. And first podium. This only. Thank you. Turkish. Bugün Manuel Puchetti'nin doğum günüydü. Hem ona hediye ettik üçüncülüğü. Elimden geleni yaptım. Bugün sabahtan belliydi. Çok iyi dereceler attım. Yarışta da çok güzel geçti. İnşallah böyle devam eder. Thank you.
Toprak Razgatlioglu, well, his English is getting better weekend by weekend, and I'm sure he'll be learning performance for the Crescent Racing Yamaha team as well. They will be thrilled with that. Let's have the Dutch national anthem then, shall we, in just a couple. Not before, though, the team's trophies are awarded for Yamaha.
Yeah, and Andrea Desailly, project leader for Yamaha in WorldSBK, and he gets the chance to get up on that top step of the podium to accept the team's trophy. And really good moment there for Yamaha, great moment for Andrea Desailly. That project's been through an awful lot over the course of the last few years to get to the front of the field, and certainly there were times where Yamaha were struggling, but they're very much back on top after this weekend.
Good stuff for Yamaha. And now the Dutch national anthem. Well, there we go. Michael Vander Mark on the podium. Yamaha on top once again here at Donny. What a weekend, and wait for the Prosecco to be sprayed. They all escape from the podium and head down to the paddock area. Everyone running away for shelter. I can't say I blame them either. This is an interesting way of doing things. Everybody gets a good coating, including David Clares there, one of the cameramen and photographers. Well, this is quite the performance from all of them. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Podium, the double, the first Dutchman to win yesterday, doing the double today. Yamaha on top, as we said, the first double victory for them since Portimao 2011. First win for them in 7 years almost. Well, there'll be some celebrations there tonight, and of course we've got a couple of weeks to go until Brno, so I'm fairly sure Vander Mark and especially the likes of Jonathan Ray will be able to wake up with a couple of sore heads tomorrow here, maybe having a party on home ground or something like that after this weekend. It's been an absolutely enthralling weekend, hasn't it? 2 fantastic races in WorldSBK here at Donington Park in 2018. Riders now back onto the podium, of course, to celebrate with their photographs and the like. I'm fairly sure Toprak Razgatlioglu will be getting that one framed and put up in his house. Well, the next round of the championship then moves on to Brno in the Czech Republic in just a couple of weeks' time. It's a circuit we haven't visited for quite a few years now. WorldSBK returning there for 2018. It's going to be unpredictable. The riders have had a test there, but what will happen in the race? Let's get ready to find out, shall we, in 2 weeks' time at the Brno circuit in the Czech Republic. Well, an absolutely enthralling race, and some celebrations going to go on late into the night here this weekend, I can assure you as well. Let's have a look at the final results then in just a couple of moments from this race. Well, the rain looked like it might upset the apple cart, but it was Michael Vander Mark who ended up on top after the rain didn't affect the race too much. Toprak Razgatlioglu with his first podium and Ray completing it. Then comes Alex Lowe's, Chaz Davies, Tom Sykes, Lorenzo Savadori, Leon Camilla, and then Jordi Torres on board the MV Augusta inside the top 9. Good performance from Torres after a difficult weekend. Loris Baz completes the top 10. Marco Melandri with work to do ahead of Brno. Tony Mercado, Jake Gagne, Luke Mossy, a couple of points on the board ahead of Brad Ray. So the points finished by the 2 replacement riders and wildcards this weekend. Then it's Jacobson, Jezek and Canepa, and then Gino Ria, the last of the classified runners. Law, Lavati, Ramos, Forez, Haslam and Ruben Rinaldi failing to finish that race. Ruben Rinaldi unfortunately failing to get started as well. Problems for him on the grid, and that unfortunately was as far as he went. And the terms of the Riders' Championship, this is how it sits after 2 races here at Donington Park. Chaz Davies has a 64-point deficit to make up over Jonathan Ray. Michael Vander Mark now moves to 3rd in the championship ahead of Tom Sykes. He and Sykes tied on points on 163 apiece. Toprak Razgatlioglu moves up a position as well. He's now well-footed inside the top 10 in 8th position. Good stuff for Razgatlioglu. He'll be pretty pleased with that result, I'm sure. The Riders' Championship, well, it's been a weekend to forget for Xavi Forez, and his lead in the championship is now cut down to just 46 points. Still quite unattainable for the time being, unless things change the next time around at the Brno circuit in the Czech Republic. The Team's Championship then, after 6 rounds, sit like this. Kawasaki still on top, 91 points ahead of the Aruba IT Ducati team. Pata Yamaha quite significantly closing that gap down with their points haul this weekend, though. They sit just over 30 points adrift of the Pata Yamaha, of the Aruba IT Ducati team. And the independent team standings, Barney Racing 32 points adrift.